So welcome to this webinar this afternoon with on what's new in Trimble Fielding. Throughout the session, I will cover some new features and functions that were made available inside Trimble Fielding version 4. Today's agenda, we'll start by a quick presentation of myself. We'll have a quick overview of the Trimble Fielding platform. And then we'll jump in the main course, which will be the main features and the new functions that are available inside Trimble Fielding version 4. We'll have the question period at the end. So who am I? JP Simard, application specialist with Building Point Canada since November 2016. In the previous years, I've worked with another company called Cancel Survey Equipment as tech support, sales support, and also a bit of sales. I am based in Quebec City, and I am a member of the Quebec Land Survey Association. A quick overview of Trimble Fielding. So Trimble Fielding was released in 2012, was the first release. It was to be the continuity of LM80 or the replacement of LM80 that was eventually going to be discontinued. So same mind thinking, made for construction trades, not for surveyors. Software packed with workflows and layout functionalities and specialized applications specific to contractors. Super easy to use with just a minimum training. People can get up to speed and start working with the software. And since version 4, we've been having quarterly updates and enhancements made available by Trimble here. So version 4.0 was released in August 2016, and we are now on version 4.6 in September, and version 5 is at our doors. It should be coming out very shortly. So without any more wasting time, let's go and see what came in version 4.0. The first function that or the first new feature that they brought in was the panel search. So some of our instruments in our portfolio are equipped with the vision technology. This is an embedded camera inside the instrument. So the panel search will allow us to take a 360 panoramic image, and then on the tablet with swipe of our finger, we can view that image and find where we're at on that picture, and then click on the picture, and the instrument will automatically turn towards our direction, search and lock on our prism. So very efficient for search with the panel image. They also got the new data setup command available. Really neat feature when you have existing conditions to survey, but no control points have been carried over or not. They haven't been made available yet. So you can show up on your job site, open a brand new job with nothing inside. You can either mark your control points that you want to establish, or do not mark them and just go on the fly with your rod. Take 2 shots, respecting the resections criteria, so 90 degrees between your points and your station. And then when you've taken your 2 first shots, hit the setup button, and the instrument will be positioned with regards to the 2 shots you've taken. And then you can start and do your layout, or not your layout, but collect the existing features on the job site. Another cool application for this no data setup is with guys that do formworks and that do farm buildings. Farmers do not require a high precision or a high precision of the positioning of those barns. They just want the barns to be parallel to the existing barn, but 50 feet or whatever offset to the existing barn. So instead of struggling around with controls and establishing how we could set up our control points, you just affix 2 reflective foils on the existing barns, use that in a no data setup, and then you have at least your baseline with your 2 points that you just picked from your reflective foils, and then you can start entering your plan, keying in your plan, and creating another barn that could be parallel at 50 feet away from that existing barn. So very nice feature, very useful feature for this type of applications. They also brought in a new mode in the layout, which is called a 3D perspective model view, but it requires the 3D feature pack. So sometimes in the complex jobs, when you have big models, either steel or concrete models, it can be a little bit hard to understand if your point is on a slab or below a column or behind a column, I should say, or in front of a column. So by switching to the perspective view, it's going to talk a lot more and allow you to understand where is the point that you want to lay out. Is it on the top, or the bottom of the slab, or in front, or behind the wall? And that feature was enhanced in version 4.4, where we could now have our instrument show up in the model, and also our rod, making it even more easy for us to understand where is the point that we want to lay out, where are we with regards to the model, and where should we be going to lay out that point. So very, very nice feature here. And they also added the capability to clear layout flags. So as you guys know, when we lay out points and we measure them, they will be flagged if they're within tolerance or out of tolerance, with a field with a green or red circle. So those flags can now be cleared if we want to restart our layout from a fresh job. We don't need to create a new job or create all our points again. We just clear the layout flags, and it's like if it was a brand new fresh job, and we can keep on laying out. Version 4.1 came out with two new specialized constructions application. The first one is the surface module. So a nice feature to use when you want to do a quick check of a slab to see if it's perfectly level or flattened. Inside TFL, you'll be able to define the area on which you want to be working. You'll then define your grid spacing, and you will also have the options to tell the software if this surface is on the floor or the ceiling, because this surface module only works for horizontal surfaces. And when you're ready, you can click the start button. It will be done either automatically by using the DR capabilities of the instrument, or if you uncheck the automatic box there, you will be able to survey or to collect your points using your prism. Once the point collection is done, you will now have the options to enter the elevation of the slabs and then your tolerance, and the software will automatically compute with the points that you've collected contour map, giving you green contours for what's in tolerance, what's below the reference elevation in blue, and what's over or above in red. And then you can add the instrument aim to the high and low areas, mark them on the slab, and then have them flatten out if required. The other function, specialized application that was brought in is the advanced laser layout module with the wall penetration and point transfer command. So wall penetration, very useful for guys that are doing MEP plumbing and also steel that need to tap to existing lines, beams, or structures inside buildings. So instead of drilling everywhere or a big hole in the wall, you can select 2 points that will be separated by that wall. Just turn your instrument to aim to this wall and then click on the aim button. The laser will turn on your total station and aim where the intersection of this line with regards to the wall, the vertical plane, is happening. So you just need them to drill a hole at this area. We can also bring in some offsets, so if we want that indication to be offsetted to the left or to the right or the bottom or top, this can also be configured in the wall penetration application. The point transfer is another very cool function that is used when working inside buildings. This is the capability of switching your points to be laid out either on the floor or the ceiling. So in a scenario where you show up on a job site, you have to go and mark your hangers for fire sprinklers, but you don't have access to any lifts or machinery to bring you to the ceiling. But you must absolutely lay out these points during this day because the crew is coming in the next morning to do the install. Well, you can transfer those design points that have been made on the ceiling to the floor, lay them out. These points will be perfectly vertical under or over their design. And when your staff comes in the next day, they can use a little plumb level square laser and transfer the points from the floor back to the ceiling or vice versa. Also can be used if you're doing stairways or you've got these funny shaped stairs and you want to make sure that your rails or your guards don't clash with or will fit in the environment, well, you can pick any corner of any stairs and transfer that to the floor or the ceiling to help you install guides or some protection. The turn to function was enhanced in version 4.1, so we are now able to set our horizontal angle to 0 and then have our instrument turn to the right or to the left with some preset angles of 90, 45, or 30 degrees. But we can also enter a custom angle if required. So it can be useful in some application if we wish to use the instrument a bit like a theodolite. And also in that window, they now have the display of the angles, slope distance, horizontal and vertical distance, and coordinates that's available throughout that view. The capability of collecting arcs was also made available. We could already collect some lines, but now we can collect some arcs. So in situations of quality control or as-built surveys, you can start collecting an arc, and when you have 3 points that have been collected, the software will calculate the radius and the arc angle for you. So you can double check if that item or that element was put in place respecting the design. And like I previously mentioned, the brought in the distance, angle, and coordinate display available also in the device menu. So if you wish to know how far is your rod from the instrument, you can view it from the device menu. Version 4.2 now. This was not a major release, but a release where there were a lot of new enhancements that were brought in. The first one is the capability of importing PDF files. This function was also enhanced in version 4.5. So in 4.2, we were now capable of importing imperial PDFs inside TFL. We had a few criteria to be respect for that to work. So the PDF had to contain only one drawing or one page per PDF. And that PDF needed to be vectorized and not a raster format. So it had to be created, let's say, from AutoCAD, and you export it as a PDF. You don't print it as a PDF, because when you print as a PDF, you are creating a raster. So those are a few criteria that needed to be respected for the PDF import command to work well in TFL. But once you had a vectorized PDF and you brought it in TFL, you would set your scale or define the scale, and the information would come in and be useful, could be used as a background file. They also added the IFC and SketchUp 3D model that were now supported for import inside TFL. So as you can see here on the screen, this is the 3D model of a condo tower that was made in Tekla. So we could now export directly 3D models, BIM models from Tekla to an IFC format and pull this inside our tablet. In being IFC formats or SKP formats, they are lightweight and didn't slow down or didn't lag at all in the tablet. We could orbit with these models, and we just it was just like a regular 2D drawing, no lagging. They brought in a closure check when we're creating planes. So as you can see here in this example, we have a red circle that's been drawn over my point 100, which was my starting point. So I have a closure error. My horizontal closure error is good. It's at 0, but my vertical has an error. So I must have made an error somewhere along the road while I was keying in this very complex square shape. Point closure or closure check is a really nice feature now to have and to do some quality controls as we enter our drawings in version 4.2. They also brought back the the point pattern creation. So what do I mean by bringing it back? It was available in LM80, but wasn't carried over in the first release of TFL, but brought back in version 4.2. So pretty simple. You can define any point pattern that you wish. It can contain 1 point, 2 points, 4 points. They can be aligned in any quadrants that you wish. You can input the X and Y values in the input form and then define your pattern. You save that pattern, and once it's saved, you then have the options or the capabilities of inserting that point pattern to any point that is available in your map. And then you can also orientate that pattern by preset angles, 90, 40, or 30 degrees, or custom angles if for any reason those patterns are in a oblique direction. Single point offset was also made available. So under the create menu points manager, we are now able to create points in an offset from a line single point. So two ways of doing it. We can key in our horizontal offset and vertical offset, and also a start distance. So if we want the point to be created at the beginning of the line, so let's see here, we see the line is from 100 to 101, and the point has been pushed down by 5 feet. So that's the start distance, the SD value that we see at the bottom right. So we can put that value either in a negative or positive value. So if that point would have been pushed back, but we understand that the line doesn't go past 100, we just need to key in a negative start distance, and that point can be pushed back. And with the little T arrow that we see there in the middle, we can swap that point from the right or to the left of the line. And you guys see we can also do it in a multiple. We can also create multiple points offset it from a line. They also added the possibility to create points between two lines, or I should say in a wall. Very, very useful or appreciated command for plumbers that need to sometimes position pipes directly in the middle of some walls. So by selecting two lines on a background file and then clicking anywhere between those two lines, the TFL software will automatically calculate the mid distance between those two lines. Like I said, so if a plumber has a drawing of a building with the divisions inside that building, it needs to position some pipes and make sure that they fall within the wall. They can zoom in to that division, select those two lines that define that division, and then click in the middle or anywhere between those two lines, and the point will be created just like we see here on the screen, dead on the center of those two lines. Setup information has been made available in the daily summary report, so we now have that information on the instrument position and also the quality of our resection and the control points that are used available in the daily summary report for further use if we need to argue with anybody on our station or quality of our work. We have that information now made available. And the option to store images with collected points was also made available. Again, here we need an instrument that has vision technology, so on embedded camera, onboard camera with the units. And when you toggle the little camera icon at the bottom of the screen, every time a shot or a point is taken, a picture is also stored at the same time. So very convenient when you're doing as-builts or quality controls, or if you have some issues on site and you want to send that back to the office. Well, an image is worth 1,000 words. You can just take a shot and then add a few comments and send that over to the office so they can investigate and do any changes or correction to the design. Another nice change they made, they tweaked a little bit their terminology to make it more easy to understand what's going on. So they changed the IR and DR modes to prism and laser mode, which speaks a lot more, easier to understand that you're using your prism when you're in prism mode, and if you're switching to laser mode, this means you're going to be using the DR or the laser to shoot on objects. Version 4.3 was, should I say that? I'm not sure, but it was a lean release where they didn't bring in much new features, but they made a transition to the 64-bit platform. So this probably explains why they didn't bring in many new features, just probably focused on changing the code to make it work on a 60-bit platform. For the Yuma customers, Yuma 2 customers, this is a 32-bit platform, so therefore version 4.3 of TFL was no longer supported or was not accessible for Yuma 2 users. So it pretty much means it's the end of the update path for Yuma 2 users, but brought or opened up new opportunities for different platforms to be available for us. I'll show you later on at the end of the presentation. So version 4.3 transitioned to a 64-bit platform. They also added the reflective foil target type, now available in our preset prism types. Can seem like a little enhancement or not an enhancement, but I don't think this is it. Using reflective foils and having this target type available now in our prism setup helps a lot when you're conducting our station setups and you're using reflective foils, because when selecting that prism type, it will turn off that red laser that sometimes can blindside you when you're looking into the scope in laser mode, trying to put your crosshairs dead on your target. You've got this red dot directly in the middle. Can make it a bit hard to make sure that you're dead on center. So reflective target type will turn that laser off, and will also put the instrument, the auto lock off on the instrument, allowing you to do an accurate aiming of your reflective foil. So I consider it as a nice and a good enhancement. They also brought in a new command, which was the layout plane. So we were now able to lay out a horizontal plane. So by selecting the layout plane command, a slider bar was made available on the right side of our map, and we would have an indicator showing us if we were below or above, and when we were on grade, we would get those two green arrows telling us that we were on grade. Enhanced in next version, and you'll see what were the enhancements made to this command. So version 4.4, a little bit more enhancements were brought into this one. Scale bar option in the map view was now available. Again, may seem like a little enhancement, but I find it pretty useful, especially when you're bringing in background files and you just want to do a quick quality check and make sure that the scale of that drawing is good. Well, having that little scale bar option allows you to zoom in and see are your grid lines 10 or 20 feet, or you're out of scale, and that little scale bar at the bottom is indicating you that the distance between two grid lines is 200 feet, which makes no sense. So super quick quality check that can be done with this little scale bar option in the map view. The travel direction up when using a robotic total station was made available. Why am I saying it was made available? It was already available while with using GNSS or GPS systems, but now was added for the robotic total stations. Another nice feature where the background file will automatically pivot or adapt its orientation in the direction in which you're traveling, so it can make it a little bit easier to understand if you're walking across the job site to a point, making sure that the drawing has rotated and is in position with the actual position of the site. Some people will like it and some won't, but you can turn it on or turn it off, as you see here with the map options in the travel direction up checkbox. Layout plane, like I said, was enhanced here, and they brought in the sloping planes that were now capable of doing so. Under the layout plane, two new icons were made available. The first one was just for horizontal planes in the previous version, and then they brought in the capability of creating a slope plane by selecting 3 points. So if you have 3 points in your job that have different elevations, the software will bring in or compute an inclined plane or a sloping plane out of these 3 points. And the plane will not only be within the 3 points that you've selected, but will extend to the entire job site on which you're working. So this is the middle option. And the last option, another easy way to key in a sloping plane is by selecting the point that you want the plane to start. Second point, to define the direction of this plane, and then you can key in the slope either using percentage or run rise values. And again, this sloping plane would extend to the maximum or to the entire job, not only in a certain area, but cover the entire job. They enhanced the CSV file import function. So in your comma delimited files, if you had coordinates, northing, easting, and elevation, and then a description code, but if you added a last row with the layers information, so upon import, that layer would be looked at, and all the points would be separated to the appropriate layer, making your data management a lot easier. So really nice feature here again. So before that, when we imported a CSV file, it would all fall on the same layer, but now we can construct or make our CSV files and make sure we have layer information column about the layer information, and then TFL is just going to split everything into the appropriate layer. And even if the layer is not existing in the current TFL job, it will create that layer and put some points directly on the layer. Capability to merge TFL files. So if you're in a current job, it's open, and you want to bring some data from a second job, you can just go to the import menu from the jobs management, import the second file, TFL file, directly to your current file, and your jobs will be merged together. They also enhanced the TFL line work capabilities. So before, we were only able to create points from a model. When we had a model file, the only line work that we could, the only points that we could create off that line work was from a background file. So if we had drawn any line work from TFL, we couldn't create intersections or midpoints off the TFL line work. So they changed that and made it possible now to create intersections and midpoints and endpoints directly from the TFL line work. So as you see here on the screen, I have two lines that are across are making an X, and I can create an intersection off that TFL line work. Version 4.5, what was new with that version? So we can see that that version is kind of, I like to see it, TFL is becoming an adult or leaving its teenage, because it's taken maturity here. So they brought it out with only now one version of Trimble Field, and there's only one version of TFL, no more TFL for structures as we had in the past, or for MEP, and we also had a TFL for our steel and concrete guys. So now one unique solution, one unique product, mature product, declined in 3 versions, either the base, the core, or the advanced version. So we see just a little sample here of the configuration matrix showing us what are the difference between the 3 versions. If you want more information, more detail, or you wish to update from core to advanced, you can touch base with your seller, and they can have a look at the matrix with you. And the surface module was now made available on a unique purchase or a single purchase. So back in the previous versions of the TFL, the surface module, was only available with the advanced version, but now you can purchase the surface module as a standalone. The new compute icon was changed and was now positioned on the map screen, which makes a lot more sense, because when you're computing, when you want to compute distances, angles, or do any cobos, you're basically using the map to select your points. So that little ruler is now available on the top left of the map screen, and then by clicking on it, you now have access to the 4 compute commands that are available. So compute distance between 2 points, compute angle between the 3 points. You can also compute area, perimeter with 3 or more points, and you can also compute a volume with this command. If you enter how thick is the slab, you will get the volume calculated directly in the field. And there's a down and out calculation that can also be done to compute the values of a point with regards to a line. They also brought the layout to a sloping line function, which is very useful and very used with our plumbing guys, and also our concrete formwork guys that have ramps that are sloped. So that command will allow you to select a line that has a slope, and when you're laying it out, you'll have the information displayed at the top of your screen, where you'll see the distance from the start of the line, the offset to the line. So if you're to the left or to the right of the line, it will tell you how much you are away from the line, and also give you the up and down values to reach that line. So we can now lay out sloping lines with TFL, and we can also import or bring in an offset. You can see at the bottom of the main screen, we have an offset input form where we can go there, and if we want to offset our line, we just need to enter the value, and the line will be staked with that offset. Our layout plane command was again enhanced here with the sound indicator. So nice enhancement. Instead of having to look at our map or our slider bar every time we're working on planes, horizontal or sloping planes, the tablet will now be just like a rotating laser. So if you're over or under the grade, it will beep, and when you fall directly on grade, that beep will become steady. So no need to look at your tablet anymore. You just can walk around with your rod and do some quick quality checks. And if you have that constant beep, that means that the plane, you're on grade, and everything has been done with right and against the design. And that sound can be turned off if it's too annoying for you, or you don't hear it because the job site is too busy or too noisy. They also changed the prism choice and height. So instead of having to drill down the device menu, the measure menu to change these options, it's now available from the main screen. So as you see on the top left, the next button to the right of the laser or prism mode is now the icon where you'll be able to access your prism choice to select it, and also to set the height. So directly from the main screen. So while you're collecting points or laying out points, if you change your rod height, super quick, super easy to do that change. If you're working in 3D, they also added the capability of storing custom prisms. So as you guys know, we've got preset target types for the MT1000, the 360 prism, the reflective foil. But we can now add some custom prisms. So let's say that we're on a job site and we have a few different types of prism that are used for our station setups, therefore control points. Then we can name those points, those prisms, I should say, enter the prism constant, and then it's going to be super easy for us when we're conducting our station setup to select the appropriate type and not worry about the prism constant being off or wrong, because we have stored our custom prisms previously. And last but not least, they made the negative coal height available. So when we're working with a head down level bubble or inverted rod, we can now key in our rod height with a negative value to make sure that we lay out our points on the ceiling at the appropriate elevation. Last and current version 4.6 of TFL, what came out, this really, really cool vertical verification tool was made available. So super easy command to use. You don't even need to do a station setup to be able to use this command. You just need to set your instrument on a tripod, level it, connect the tablet to your instrument, and the tablet is already, and the function or the tool will already be available. So you can quickly check the plumb of columns and walls. So for steel guys or precast guys that do installs, this function is awesome for you guys. So you set your instrument in front of the column, you define the tolerance that you want for your plumb check, you aim the bottom of the column with the scope, and then you just need to tilt the scope to the upper portion of the column, and then the software will tell you if you need to push it in or push it out. And when it's within your tolerances, you'll get those 2 green arrows saying that you've met tolerance, and then you can call it a go to your steel fab guys and your steel erectors, so they can bolt it in place, and you know that the structure will be plumb, and then you can just take your instrument, move it over to the next column, and do the same routine again. Site control module was also made available. What does the site control module allow us to do is to take phase 1 and phase 2 measurements and also conduct some rounds. So very useful if you want to establish very tight controls on a job site. You can use the phase 1, phase 2, and rounds measurement to perform that. And you can also use it if you just want just in regular measure with just regular measurements, or just regular setups. This F1 or F2 and round capabilities will be available, but for that you need to purchase the advanced module of TFL. They also added the display of line, arc, and circle information. So by clicking the eye information icon at the bottom right, in the previous versions, we only had the information on points where we would have the layer, the coordinates, the layout deltas, and the description codes. But now they've added also some information with lines and arcs. So when you're selecting an arc, you will have the length and the radius of this arc. And if you're selecting a line, you'll have the length of the line. And if it's a slope line, you'll have the slope of that line. So it can be quick checks to see if your lines are sloped or not. They also added the corner bullseye. So as you know now, when you're laying out with Trimble FieldLink, you're first starting with the standard map, if we can call it like that, where you've got your general view of your plan, and then you see yourself walking around or moving towards the point that you want to lay out. And then when you fall within about a meter of the design point, then a puck and a bullseye will be made available for you to do your fine tuning and then position your rod directly over the point and get 4 green arrows when you reach your tolerances to lay it out. So a corner bullseye, instead of losing a general map, the corner bullseye will appear in a upper left corner of the map, allowing you to view both at the same time. You still have your background file being displayed, and you'll have your corner bullseye to do your fine tuning. So a really cool feature to even to keep at or to stay on top of your information and always see what's going on your tablet. So it can be turned on and turned off again with the under the map configurations. Surface module was enhanced. Like I told you previously, we could only conduct surface analysis on horizontal surface, either floors or ceiling. They brought in a new capability to do it on vertical surfaces. So while you're defining the surface that you want to measure, you can now let the software know if you're going to do it horizontally or vertically. So this covers the new features of Trimble FieldLink version 4. Like I said, I didn't cover all of the enhancements that were made, but the major ones and the coolest ones have been covered. Do you have any questions? No questions? Excellent. So I'll just give you a few additional informations here. So the TFL updates are done via the Trimble Installation Manager. By default, this should already be installed on your tablets. If it's not, you can Google it and install it. Once installed, you just need to run the Installation Manager when your tablet is connected to Wi-Fi. The software will go and seek the license manager on Trimble servers, make sure that your tablet is entitled to the latest version of TFL, and make it available for install. If you're under software maintenance, you will always have access to the latest versions. If not, it will bring you to the latest version that you're entitled to. We're also very happy to tell you guys that we have added the new Trimble Panasonic SZ-M1 tablet, and now available in our portfolio. So a cool 7-inch screen tablet, super slim, lightweight, very fast, is a great option for people that still have LM80 Nomads and that wish to upgrade their software and take advantage of the new features and functions of TFL. This little tablet here is a very nice piece of hardware, and I'm sure you'll enjoy working with it. I invite everybody to follow me on LinkedIn at JP Simard. I post every time there are new features, functions, or release of TFL or any other field solution products. I like to advertise this on LinkedIn. And stay tuned for Trimble version 5. It's coming pretty soon, pretty fast. And as you can see, Trimble is always improving, constantly improving its Trimble FieldLink software on a quarterly basis. Version 5 is a major release, stepping from 4 to 5. It will be, from what I've seen, packed with a whole lot of interesting and new features. So stay tuned. It's coming soon. Thank you all, and I wish you a good weekend. Bye-bye.